Welcome to my super type A attempt at being Zen, the podcast. My name is Risha York, and I will be your host. If you are overworked, overtired, overstretched, overwhelmed, and just over it, you are in the right place. We like to say we are currently working towards Zen-ish. I'm thrilled that you've joined us. Let's see who will be supporting us on our path to Zen today. Welcome to episode 2 of Amy Guerrero. I'm so excited you've come back to join us. Let's hop back in. When I work through the temperament stuff with people, the thing that they don't always understand is you're not one thing, right? Mm-hmm. And so for me specifically, I am, of the 4 temperaments, my top 3 are almost tied. So I move very seamlessly between 3 of them. And sometimes I have to have these conversations with myself where I say, oh, I see you, gold, but you're not needed right now. What I need more than anything is blue in this moment. So I need to lean more in that direction in order to do this in a way that I feel is healthy and supportive. And blue is more relationship and empathy based. And so sometimes I need to lean heavily in that direction to do the work I'm doing. And sometimes I need to move away from that to keep myself safe and be in a boundary space. And that's when gold comes to play.
Absolutely. And again, like you, to the listeners that are like, oh, I want to work in that level of fluidity throughout my day. Absolutely. Like that's what we're all moving towards. And until your nervous system feels safe to kind of let you be flexible, then you're going to bump up against that. Like, no, it has to be this way.
Yeah.
And not because you don't have access to your prefrontal cortex, your sequencing skills when you're in one of these states in a high
vigilance or high reactive.
Anything, or, low, where you're on the floor and you're just like, I can't do anything except for Netflix and mindlessly eat. Yeah. Okay, that's okay. But be in full approval of it because you're going to come out of it faster if you're in approval.
The more you beat yourself up about it, the longer it's going to take to rebound.
Oh, geez. Yeah. 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 I mean, because when what we're talking about is like a lot of deconditioning.
That's it. And I think giving permission, giving yourself, like, obviously I have another course called Lead Without Permission. And that's a big part of my conversation with clients on a regular basis. You have to find who you are as a leader, who you are as a person, and stop waiting for other people's approval around it and just come right out there leading from the heart.
Yep.
And be you. And that's how you get to authentically live you and be you. And in those moments, you might have 3 days where you need to lay and watch Netflix and binge eat ice cream and watch Charmed or whatever it is that does it for you. That's my show. But you have something that brings you comfort, or, okay, well, we go through these periods and everything is temporary. Everything on this planet, everything you're ever experiencing, it's all temporary. So give it what it needs, work through it, come back to another space when you're ready.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you feel terrified to do that, like lean into other people and connection and community and co-regulation with people that are doing that, because our nervous systems are constantly like aiding each other in feeling these things, right? Just like our human design, like we complete each other in so many ways. And so if someone's out there struggling, like I'm trying to do this, if you're trying to do it on your own, you're really much less likely to get there, because sometimes I need some regulation from the other yoga students in my yoga space, right? Like, I mean, just all the different ways, or During COVID, I would go to the grocery store just to get co-regulation because everybody was so weird on my cul-de-sac at the end. And I was like, I'm just going to go get healthy co-regulation with my Trader Joe's friends. Right? No commitment there. But like just that exchange of our energy is so important because then you can literally mirror what's possible to your whole body system. And just the long story short is the mindset stuff is not going to work.
Not by itself.
Not by itself in a dysregulated state.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with dysregulation. I really want to take any shame out of that.
Yeah,
it's like, no, it's just your animal body taking care of you.
And everyone's going to be in that state at some point. Like you can't
all the time, just throughout the day.
That it's part of this conversation too. My super type A attempt at being Zen. Guess what? It's a practice. It's a journey. It's not an endpoint.
No, it's a way of life.
And, we had this conversation actually in one of our other podcasts too, where someone said, I wish I'd learned about gentle parenting earlier in my parenting career. And I laughed and said, oh yeah, 100%. However, that would not stop you from still reacting or doing things that weren't considered gentle parenting because we're human beings and we make mistakes and we have to be allowed. We have to be allowed to misstep and stick our foot in our mouth and be idiots. And we have to be allowed to do that.
Yeah.
It's how we learn.
Yeah. I just parted ways with someone who I like really in a grieving process right now. And we're both trauma trained people in the world. And I'm guiding and he's the therapist. And it's just like, they're like, everyone's like, oh, you've got it all figured out. I'm like, no, we don't have anything figured out. We're still just two humans that have a lot of energy and enthusiasm and adventure and all of these things that like, I can say what's happening. And I'm like, oh, my nervous system's going dorsal, but I might already be making him wrong.
Right.
And, just because we have the language does not mean that we somehow supersede the human experience.
No.
And yeah, but I mean, it's a beautiful thing to learn everything that you're teaching and just to give this permission to everyone because, we would laugh about it in the end, and our relationship was so like the repair was just so gorgeous because I could totally see what was happening in him. And I'd be like, oh, like I went totally sympathetic and I lost you for a second there. Right. I was just fighting and flighting and in total fear. And then it would just connect us in such a stronger way because I could come back faster.
Right.
And this was not possible 10 years ago. Definitely not when I was still consuming alcohol and things outside of myself to cope. So there's just so many benefits to creating awareness and approval of yourself.
Absolutely. Well, it's like I always say, know the monster, right? Oh, if you name that
monsters are cute.
You name that monster, it's a hell of a lot easier to fight it. If you have not named it, it's scary because the not knowing is scarier than the knowing.
Yeah. And my little tidbit from my perspective and how I teach would be like, we don't have to fight it. We can actually just approve of it.
Yeah.
Right. Like that monster is gorgeous. You a part of me. Like it's going to happen. Yeah. I have a huge wound around abandonment. And so any kind of withholding just shakes me to my core. Right. And because I have a felt sense of everything, I can feel when someone's withholding. And I'm like, please, this is the opportunity for you to tell the truth right now.
Yeah.
Because my system is already getting activated and it's not. My monster will come out and attack you. Yeah. Because I feel so threatened by the loss and abandonment of you. But I mean, I can name it.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, any partner that I'm with, I'm like, just don't freaking withhold. Because if you withhold, you're just not going to like the woman who comes out to attack you because she will. Yeah. And just knowing that it's gorgeous. And just to say like, this is what I need.
Yeah. Here's how I get triggered. Please don't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like full permission to tell me everything because like that I'm going to find out anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel more comfortable as I moved through my professional life. I've had these moments where I think to myself, why don't I like this person? They seem nice. They seem like good people. There's just something that feels not okay to me. I can't figure out what it is exactly. And as I've gotten further into my work and also had this conversation a few times with several people, it's come to light for me that they're not in line with my top values, and one of my top values is authenticity. So if you wear a mask at any point and I get a sense that that's what's going on,
Mm,
I'm not interested anymore.
beautiful.
It just
Gorgeous. And so much permission, because your nervous system says danger.
It says this is not okay. And frankly, I think it comes from, obviously, like, some of these things are brought on by childhood trauma or what's gone on in your life at this point, right? And for me, it certainly was something that was like heavily trauma induced. And I thought, this is exactly where this comes from. I'm aware of why I'm reacting this way. I want to give you a benefit of the doubt. But the thing is once I've been triggered by that same person more than a few times, you're not safe for me. And you might be safe for other people, but not for me. And that's not
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, I think that for this, especially this type A person that we were just talking about, like, it's really important to notice and name those things, and even to start writing yourself a list of that, because
Yes.
that good girl, good boy, good human in us that was trained and conditioned that way for so long is going to feel bad and guilty for not liking that
Absolutely.
person.
Because
And it's like, hey, yo, I mean, at this point in my life, like, I have very little pay, like, I just don't have room for it. So I'm just
no,
like,
well, yeah.
even some of my best friends, I keep them at a distance now, because I'm just like, yo, you have not really gone on the same journey that I do. So our nervous systems miss each other.
Yeah.
And I love you so much, but I probably will only talk to you twice a year from now on.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
It's okay. We all grow at different speeds. We all go in different directions. And I think part of that conflict, especially for someone who is super type A, because super type A is very in tune with tradition and etiquette and what's expected and how to show up for people and how to be a caretaker. And, that's very strong within them. And I appreciate and understand that. And
Mm,
I mean, these are the people we want in charge
mm,
in spaces for sure, because you have that in you to give and we appreciate it,
mm,
right? But that's not all you are.
mm.
That's not all you are. You're also someone who has needs and wants and needs support and has to lean on people from time to time, and it doesn't make you less strong. And
Yeah.
that's, I think, the problem. They feel like they have to carry it all themselves, right?
When it gives them that sense of belonging.
That sense of belonging. Like, why does
Yeah.
everybody like her, but I don't like her? I don't get it. Oh, I'll just
Yeah.
play along. Yeah, yeah, great. And then
Oh
you
my
feel
God.
awful the whole time you're there. No, stop. Why?
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah.
Walk away. Make your own circle, one that feels comfortable and supportive and happy and kind.
Yeah, absolutely. And then if someone agitates you, something that I like to play with as well is like, is that agitating me because it's something that I desire for myself? And that's a place of growth. Right.
Yes.
And so, especially when you're, finding teachers in the world, like, I agitate people for sure.
Oh, yeah, me too.
And yeah, and then, like, when they come close, I'm just like, that agitation is not for me. That's you.
Yeah.
And, like, just tell me what you want.
Yeah.
Right? Tell me what's agitating you, and then I can direct you in the direction to work with me or do things in my
And
spaces.
sometimes it's from another direction. Like, you see something that you don't like in yourself in that person
Yeah.
that you haven't faced off with yet. You
Oh, yeah.
haven't accepted it yet, but you're doing it. Like, it's a thing you don't like that you do.
Yeah.
And you're seeing someone else do it and you're like, oh, she's awful. Is she?
And I don't subscribe too much to the 12-step programs, but I mean, it did serve a purpose in my life at first time, and it
Yeah.
serves a purpose in the world. But one thing that they say is, if you spot it, you got it. And it's just a really simple way to be like, just, like, look at that. But we're,
Yeah.
again, so conditioned to feel victimized by
And
our
judge.
sensation. Yeah. Well, and so then we start persecuting and judging,
It's not
and
necessary,
mm,
right? It is a very hard pattern to break.
yeah.
And as you'd said earlier, if we could meet that person where they're at
Mm.
rather than pinpoint and judge, what a different conversation that would be.
It's brilliant. Yeah. One of my clients was telling me this morning, someone came and attacked her on her Instagram page but turned off her comments so that she couldn't comment back to her. And I was like, that's a classic disorganized attachment, right? It's just like they're coming full in, victimized by your post, want to
Yeah.
tell you all these things, but then do not want to be told anything back, right?
Right.
And the real power and the real change comes when we can hold ourselves and like, I absolutely disagree with you and I love you. And that was another thing that I just really appreciated about my relationship. It's just like, I totally, totally disagree with you. And it's okay.
Yeah.
I love you, baby. And like, thank you. Like, we can have this conversation as many times as you want. What do you want for dinner?
Yeah.
Right. And it was just so much freedom. And that takes a flexible nervous system and understanding your temperament and going
And
from
we're
blue to
also
gold.
triggered these days. I'd love to get your input on that because we're also triggered these days, generally in the media. Everything is very divisive. Everything is very high energy, fear mongering. Like I live in Canada, just north of Toronto. Last week it was there's a giant storm coming, batten the hatches, shut it all down. And I was like, really? And people were commenting on it in Toronto, thunderstorm, snow. Okay, but guys, like it's weather. And we're all okay. Everyone's okay. No one's getting hit by lightning in the middle of Yonge Street. Like this isn't a big deal. And where we were, it was almost nothing. Like we got a lot of snow, but we live in Canada, folks. Like we know that that's coming every year. It's not like it misses us.
Yeah.
So there's this fear mongering about everything, even things as simple as the weather that are coming anyway. They're coming anyway. And so we're so, ramped
Well,
up and amped up about everything. And there's so many fewer conversations around you and I disagree. It's more, I'm going to throw my opinion in your face. You can throw your opinion in mine. Can't we have more of a discussion rather than a debate?
yeah. I mean, that's what I'm moving towards in the world. That's the spaces that I create. And
Yeah.
I mean, just the news, the media, Instagram, Facebook, like all the places, TikTok, like there's just so much. Your nervous system will naturally go towards that sympathetic, like, oh my
Yeah.
God, fear. And then it'll help those ideas and those problems stay alive so that you feel valuable and belonging and and let me tell the neighbors. And like your nervous system's going to gravitate towards that. And it's becomes a lot about that personal responsibility of like everything that I consume really matters.
Mm-hmm.
And am I willing to take care of myself and be conscious of that in all of the ways? Because it's going to affect the rest of my day. And I probably am going to get into some kind of argument with my partner if I don't check this.
Yeah.
And it's just so funny. Yeah. I mean, I really get a kick out of it because way before I started in this work and I was just a consultant, more doing business consulting at the time, like I was already checked out of the news since
Oh, yeah.
like 2005 or something. I was just like, well, I
Yeah.
can't with the news. Like I already feel so much. I don't need to feel
Attacked. Yeah,
more.
I'm too high empathy. I feel everything. So I have to be very aware
Oh
of
yeah.
what I watch. Even right now, somebody asked me, I've been asked 5 times this week, are you watching that new zombie show, The Rest of Us, The Last of Us, The Last of Us? I'm like, no. They're like, oh yeah, it's so great. You have to watch it. I was like, I probably won't. It's not for me. I need something soft and
You need
squishy.
Charmed.
Yeah, I need something either fantasy, comedy, or just not
Yeah.
realistic because I don't want to live in a state of hypervigilance all the time. And
Yeah.
that comes into my subconscious. And then I'm having dreams about running away from zombies. And I don't need that in the middle of the night.
Yeah,
you
totally.
know,
Or for your downtime.
or for my
Yeah, so and
downtime.
this is again, this conversation's like all about that permission. Like, can you get to know your system and then not subscribe to whatever popular culture is subscribing
Trying
to
to
just because
shove
it
down your
like
throat.
doesn't work. Yeah. I mean, my girlfriends told me, I remember in San Francisco, like, you really need to watch the news because you're so uninformed. And I was like, that's your opinion,
Yeah.
right? Like when I'm in what I need to know, I know, and I don't really care about the rest. And it was fun. I did a whole year course on like being in your fullest self-expression. And what I really came to is like the hills that I'm willing to die on. I really care about those things. And I know all the things about it. I'm so passionate about it. And I can just talk for days about it like this.
Yeah.
But then there's things that I'm just like, I don't really care about the vaccine that much. I don't really care about all of these other things that are going on. Nothing in my physical body says, yes, care about that. And so I only have a certain bandwidth, and my type
Yeah.
A-ness wants to know everything.
Yes.
Right? She wants to like, oh, I need to know everything so I'm
Collect.
valuable in the world. And
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I don't. And learning to work with that and give that permission is just going to create so much freedom in your physical.
Well, and having your specialty, I love that idea too. You know, we all have our specialties. You can't know everything. You can't be everything to everyone. You can't be, that's not possible. I'm sorry, whoever's listening and trying to literally be the center of everyone's universe around them. Sorry, no, not going to work out. Either you're going to have a full breakdown and you're going to end up a puddle on the floor and it's going to take you years to rebuild,
Yeah.
or you have to start get choosier. You know, just get choosier around the things that matter to you and your expertise. Where are you going to really excel? Focus on that. Let's not try and be all the things. You
Yeah.
can't be an encyclopedia. It's not fair to ask that of anyone.
It's exhausting.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
exhausting, right?
Yeah. I'm a
So
I'm
if
a 1-3 Manny Jenny, so I can it's so funny because I love to research everything, but then I'm just gonna like try everything as well. So I'm
yeah,
like, this is quite a thing for me. And I just get to notice it and then, really embody it. And
yeah,
then there's more permission. And then I'm like, I don't need to research it. I already know the truth. Like, can I just be with the truth?
yeah. And
Yeah.
then there's some temperaments, you know, like our inquiring greens, they need to research it. They want to research it. They want to see the numbers on the
Oh
paper.
yeah.
They want to see that's fine. Do it. Do that work. It has to be important to you.
Yeah.
Don't do that work for everything. If you're trying to figure out what orange juice to buy, please do not do that work. Just try an
You don't need
orange
a
juice.
spreadsheet for the orange juice. But
No,
I've
if
definitely
you're
had people that were like that. Yeah. And
absolutely, my husband
like
is that
no
person.
shame,
My
no
husband
shame, no shame.
is that person, and it's hilarious. But, you know, we have a lot of conversations around this probably doesn't need as much attention as, say, if we were going to buy a new lawnmower. Like, by all means, please do the research. I'd like it to last for a while. And now, you know, in our relationship, because I know that about him and he knows that I'm a little bit more impulsive, I'd be like, what's a good deal? What has good ratings? Yep, pull the trigger. That's
Yeah.
how I work. He's more, I'm going to take a week to read all of the backgrounds and what's and everything, and then weigh it all out and figure it out. Cool. So when we make decisions together in the house, if it requires a lot of work, I do not have the patience for that.
Mm, mm,
He does. So
mm.
I say, all right, research guy, this is you.
Yeah.
I need you to look this up and figure it out and come back to me with your top 2 or top 3, and we'll make a decision.
Absolutely.
If
Yeah.
I don't have time to wait for him, I do the quick Google search and I already make up my mind and I give him 3 links and I go, because he needs something in writing.
Yeah. Tell me which
Okay,
one.
so here are the 3 options. Have a look at each of them and tell me which one you're thinking. I'm leaning towards 2.
Yeah.
And then he'll be
Yeah.
like, oh, great. Look over it. And by the afternoon, we have an answer. But we have to know where to put that energy,
Absolutely. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That's very much how my partner and I were. I'm like, I don't know. This is yours. I'm just gonna be like, I already know.
Yes.
But it's so fun to just know that. Again, freedom, 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 y'all.
And saves your relationships,
Oh, all day long.
right? So
Yeah.
if someone out there is listening and they've tried all the things, Amy, like they've done it all, But they're still struggling to find Zen.
Mm.
What do you think is going on there?
Well, everything we've been talking about, there's been so many great stories today, which is gorgeous, and people really will, I think, appreciate. What's going on is simply that your nervous system is stuck. It's immovable from the place that it's at because it's in a survival response.
Mm-hmm.
And until you can understand what survival response it's in and start to give it some room through, and this is the thing, this comes through the body, not the mind, all day long.
Yeah.
Like once you identify, like, oh, like I feel it, and this is where like the somatic work is going to be super helpful. Make your nervous system stuck.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be able to outthink yourself here because you've already done all the things, and you'll actually, and this is what I think is so fascinating about when people are in the space of like, they want more data. And, a good, strong teacher will be like, I see you hearing me with your mind.
Yeah.
I see you checking all of the boxes and saying you've done all the things, but you are not actually hearing anything I'm saying.
Yeah.
From the most important thing in your life, which is your body.
We're
Right.
not
And
walking in the knowledge.
no, but the nervous system is just like, I can't do that. And so it's
Right.
just like literally stuck. And this is where there is going to be a degree of unraveling that's going to be very uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And you're probably going to find a little bit of emotional, physical trauma there. And you're going to be like, this sucks. I didn't know I had trauma. That's one of the things that almost every one of my
Oh,
like
yeah.
high-end one-on-one clients say. They're like, I didn't even know I had trauma. I'm like, well, you've been frozen for like 40 years. So
Right.
it's okay. Yeah. High sympathetic, high achiever, lots of money, but not there.
Yeah.
And so just to recognize that, kind of like I explained earlier in the podcast, when I felt like I was Neo in the Matrix of like, and if you haven't seen the Matrix, it's a great movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where I just, everything downloaded into my body. And I was like, oh, I know, I get it now. I
Yeah.
understand now. And now I can go teach this to others and be in my body around it. And then always know that my sympathetic response is going to come protect me every day.
So how do they shift to that space? How do they learn that?
Well, I mean, finding a guide, like
Yeah.
you're not going to do this on your own. Like maybe you start in the research rabbit hole and you start watching YouTubes and all of the things. But once you actually say like, hey, I think I'm stuck in sympathetic, or there's a part of me that's totally frozen,
Mm-hmm.
then it really comes into understanding where you can increase your range. And that comes through somatics, that comes through breath work. A type
Right.
A person is probably not going to want to meditate. I don't
Oh, they
subscribe.
struggle a lot. It's actually one of the bones of contention in in my practice all the time. I
Yeah.
get, oh, I can't meditate. And I'm like, okay, right away though, fixed mindset, right?
Yeah.
I bet it's uncomfortable to meditate, which is probably a way clearer way of saying that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it takes time. Like you want to start with
Yeah.
moving meditations. You want to start with yogic meditations, with breath work, with just like like shaking it out with
Guided
dance.
meditations that take you through so you don't have to be the one trying to take yourself through. That helps too.
Yeah. But
And
even stillness, if someone's really in that space, stillness is
yeah,
totally threatening.
yeah.
And so just like saying like, you don't have to actually be still to meditate
No,
today, like go for a
no.
walk and listen to this and observe three things. The door is yellow, that, just all of these different
Yeah.
mindfulness things that can happen as well.
Yeah.
So I really like it does take, how I put it to people is like, you have a body. And they're like, I do. And I'm like, you do. It's
Yeah.
really important. And then when they start creating that awareness in their body, then we have the opening to say, hey, let's try this.
Yeah.
Let's do, let's try this practice. Let's do this thing. Let's touch yourself. Let's use more just somatics, because there's something in there that really needs to move.
Yeah.
And energy is energy is energy, and energy needs to move. Like if it's not moving, it's getting stuck and you're going to stay there.
Yeah. And there's going to be repercussions.
Absolutely.
Your
Yeah.
body's always telling you. It's always telling you what it needs. It's just a matter of whether you're listening.
Yep. 100%. And
Right?
sometimes I got hit by a wave of grief on Friday probably sometime while I was practicing, or just teaching. And I don't really remember what happened, but about 3 or 4 o'clock, like everything in my shoulder blade scapula was just like screaming. And I was like, oh my gosh, like something probably wanted to be moved and felt. Well, I don't say probably, it did. And I just didn't give it the conscious awareness. And so instead it gripped down. And I've been struggling so much with this all weekend.
Yeah.
Because I just forgot to give it the energy. And so lots of crying, lots of emoting this weekend as we've gone through, lots of Theragun, lots of yoga, all of the things. And I'm like, dang, like if I was just a little bit more aware on
Right.
Friday, I could have, prevented this.
Avoided all
But
of this.
whatever, like it's just
My
what's
favorite thing
real.
is I always hurt myself. I'm really spazzy. I hurt myself a lot. Just because I'm not careful.
Mm.
And when, especially I think when we're super type A, you're going. You're not going carefully. You're just going. And so for me, I'll be doing something like getting out of the shower really quickly and drying myself off, and I'll turn a certain way, and then something shifts. And I'm like, and ironically, it's always after I find my mind goes into overdrive when I'm around water, in the shower, in a pool, in a bath. It's highly, I like to say conductive, right? Highly conductive. Everything's moving. I'm thinking. And so getting out of the shower, I've hurt myself so many times. And I often wonder, what was I thinking about right before that happened?
Mm. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What are the
That's
connections between what was going on in my brain and me slipping a disc in my back? Because it happens pretty frequently in that order.
Are you afraid that, may I ask a question? Would that be
Yeah.
okay with you? Are you afraid you're going to forget the idea?
Oh,
Like
that's a
low
good question.
key?
Maybe. I
Mm.
am very like squirrel, right? So I try and write things down and document things so that I don't forget.
Yeah.
But I'm also, when I'm in water, highly creative and come up with all these
Oh, very
ideas.
common. Yeah.
And then I think like how I'm in the middle of a lake, or how am I gonna
Yeah.
document this? Gee, I hope I remember it later.
Yeah. Well, and maybe just giving yourself some permission in that moment. That's what I do in the shower. Because I have I'm a Pisces sun. So like water moves me in so many different ways. But I just remind myself, like, I do keep a notebook close to the bathtub as well, or my phone. But I also just remind myself in the moment, like you're washing your hair right now in your body. And if that idea, that podcast idea, that thing for your client, is supposed to really become real, you're going to remember this.
Yeah.
And it does like bring me back into like, oh, I'm just scrubbing
Right.
the
I'm
upper part
washing
of
my
my
hair.
arm. I'm stepping out of the tub and there's a big step here.
Yeah.
So I mean, again, that permission
Yeah.
could be something that's really important.
Yeah. I like it. I
Yeah,
love it. Thank you for joining me here today, Amy.
it's really nice.
It's been
Yeah,
really delightful and nice to reconnect. It's been a while.
it has. Yeah,
So it's
thank
been
you.
really fun. Um, I hope everyone listening has enjoyed our chat and gets a chance to listen to the podcast we've released this far, and as well as the ones coming up. There's lots of really fun people coming around, and I think you're really going to appreciate it. And I have learned a lot today. So thank you, Amy.
Yeah, thank you, Risha. This
And
is
if
great.
anyone was looking to get in touch with you and work with you, how would they do that?
Instagram, regulate with Amy. Everything regulate with Amy.
Everything,
So
regulate with
yeah,
Amy.
yeah, website, all the things. I'm starting a year-long program called Roots, which really it's the one-on-one experience that I give to my clients, but now it's going to be in that group form, and it's going to be the roots. It's going to be the foundations of everything. So
Fun.
anyone
Okay.
who wants to work with me, that will be where you start from now on.
Excellent. Well, that's good to
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
Absolutely.
thank you again for joining us, and thank you, listeners. We look forward to having you back. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to our channel wherever you listen to podcasts. Visit www.yorkmotivational.com for more information on my Super Type A Attempt at Being Zen, the coaching program, Lead Without Permission, or visit our contact page to reach out to Risha. Wishing you all continued balance and fulfillment on your road to Zen.